As I stood in the kitchen, the rich aroma of roasted chicken twisted through the air, mingling with the scent of fresh bread. The evening light spilled through the window, casting a warm glow across the room, but I could feel a chill creeping up my spine. My parents had invited the entire family over for dinner, and I knew the atmosphere wouldn't be as cozy as it seemed. My heart raced at the memory of the last family gathering, where my sister had made her triumphant return with all the elegance of a peacock strutting about. I wasn't ready for another round of showing off. I took a deep breath, glancing at my mother, who hovered over the dining table, arranging the cutlery with the precision of a general preparing for battle. "Amelia," she called out without turning around, "can you set the table? Your brother should be here any minute." "Sure, mother," I replied, trying to mask the tightness in my throat. For a moment, I wanted to scream. I wanted to slam my palms against the table and tell her how unfair it felt, how my brother always got the first choice of space, the luxury of being recognized as the favorite son, while I faded into the background like a forgotten piece of furniture. As I pulled out the placemats, I couldn't shake the feeling that this night was going to tip us all into chaos. Moments later, my brother strode through the door, a lazy grin plastered across his face, his dark hair disheveled in that effortless way that almost made him look charming. If only he knew how those girls' eyes glimmered at him like they contained their own little stars. "Guess who's got a date tonight?" he announced, his voice dripping with entitlement. "Caroline from high school totally wants to catch up. Still got it right?" "Great," I replied, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Shall we add that to your trophy collection, or is it just for show?" "Chill out, Amelia. Not everyone is bitter about life. Some of us are allowed to enjoy it." His laughter echoed in my ears, mixing with the clattering of dishes my mother was organizing. "Don't start arguing already," my mother interrupted, looking over her shoulder at us. "This evening is supposed to be a celebration. Your grandfather is bringing important news." The word news sent a wave of unease through me. I could feel my stomach twisting in knots as I replied, "What kind of news?" "Honestly, Amelia, stop being so dramatic," my brother scoffed, dismissing my question as if I had asked if the sky was blue. Before I could respond, the door swung open again, and my father entered, his stature filling the doorway. "Everyone ready for dinner?" he asked, that genuine smile of his lighting up his face, completely unaware of the tension prickling in the air. I could see my mother trying to maintain her composure, fixing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes as she nudged us toward the dining room. The table was lavishly set, sparkling silverware and crystal glasses reflecting the last rays of sunlight. My stomach growled despite my anxiety. I loved dinner with my family. It was one of the rare moments we were all united, until something inevitably was said that felt like a slap. As we all settled around the table, there was an almost dramatic air of anticipation hanging thick in the room. The chicken was served, and my mother insisted we all take the family secret recipe dish first, her pride wrapped around it like a queen's scepter. My sister was the last to join us, casually assessing the situation. "Did I miss anything?" she asked, her eyes darting around the table, landing on me with a smirk that sent my blood boiling. "We were just discussing how great it is to have a whole family again," my father replied, completely oblivious to the underlying tension. "Oh, please," my sister said, waving her hand dismissively. "We always gather, it's just like any other dinner." "We never had one last time you all gathered," I said, my voice sharper than I intended. The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted it. "You made sure to choose them over me," I muttered under my breath, praying nobody heard. That's when my grandfather arrived, his presence demanding attention. He walked in with a confident stride, his eyes glinting with a mixture of wisdom and mischief. "Sorry for being late, folks, I have something important to share." My heart plunged as he settled into his chair, his hands clasped, the weight of unspoken words forming anticipation in the air. "I have come to make my intentions clear regarding the family estate," he began, and I felt my cheeks go pale. "Estate?" My brother echoed, leaning forward as if the word was an invitation for wealth. "You mean the ranch?" "Yes, exactly," my grandfather replied, pausing dramatically. "After a lot of deliberation, I have decided to bestow the property upon the child I feel has truly made a mark in this family." There was a silence so thick I could cut it with a knife. My sister smirked, a glimmer in her eye, while my brother's face filled with a mix of hope and arrogance. "Well, that must be me, right?" he said, leaning back confidently in his chair. "No, it is not," my grandfather said, shaking his head. "It's about responsibility. I value the person who has shown diligence and dedication." My mother's hand clasped tightly around her wine glass, her knuckles turning white. The tension was at a breaking point, and I felt my heart race as I met my sister's gaze, filled with everything but kindness. "Grandfather, I hope you see what I have done for the family." "It seems only fair," she started, but her voice had a sharp edge. "I have my reasons, and they are mine to share," my grandfather replied, the authority in his voice silencing her. "Tonight, you all have the chance to prove to me why you deserve the estate." What does that even mean? I asked, my voice trembling. It means whoever demonstrates they are ready to take on the family business, the legacy, will inherit it. His eyes sparkled with mischief, and I felt a surge of determination. No longer was I the overlooked daughter. This was my moment. I glanced around the table, and the realization hit me like a tidal wave. I could feel my chest tightening, those suppressed feelings rising to the surface. This was it. The stakes were high, and with them, my chances for revenge against all the mockery and favoritism were finally at hand. Let the games begin, my brother said, and with that, I felt a fiery resolve building within me, turning the simmering resentment into something fiercer. As dinner continued, I could feel the markers of rivalry, sensing the underlying animosity, each bite taken more carefully, every laugh suppressed. I clenched my fists under the table, the tension swirling around us, and I knew I would not go down quietly. The night had a long way to go, and this was just the beginning. I stood in the kitchen, the smell of roasted chicken enveloping me like an unwelcome blanket. The table was set for dinner, the perfectly polished silverware gleaming under the warm overhead lights. My mother hurrying around, her hands fluttering like nervous butterflies, reminded me more of a taskmaster than a caregiver tonight. It was surreal, being in our home, yet feeling like a stranger. I could hear my father in the living room, the deep timbre of his laughter floating through the open doorway. He was telling some old joke to my brother, the very one that felt like an inside joke I had never been included in. My sister was sullen in her usual corner, scrolling through her phone, paying little attention to the pre-dinner rush. My heart sank as I caught sight of her golden-haired, drenched in the privilege she somehow always seemed to wield. "Are you even going to help?" I asked, barely containing the bitterness in my voice. My mother shot me a look, her mouth tightening as she put her hands on her hips, an unhappy mirror of her mother. "You know I'm doing my best here. Can't you just be supportive for once?" Supportive? I wanted to scream that what I really felt was a suffocating sense of betrayal, how the walls of our family were closing in around me, trapping me in this cycle of favoritism. "I could be more supportive if you acknowledged everything I've done around here," I spat back, my voice trembling slightly. It was now or never to speak up. My chest tightened as the unspoken words of anger and frustration clawed their way to the surface. "You think you are the only one who has to put up with things?" She shot back, her eyes narrowing. "Your sister has a lot on her plate, too. Maybe she has more on her plate because she has a plate that never empties," I replied, my pulse quickening with each word. I felt the unease creeping back in, that familiar sense of being the outsider, the one who never quite fit. "It is always about what she needs, what she wants. I'm done being the shadow." "Do not raise your voice at me," my mother shouted, icicles creeping into her tone as she slammed a pot down on the stove. The harsh clattering echoed through the kitchen shadows. I flinched, my hands going cold as the tension thickened. "I just want you to see it, see how unfair it is." I felt the tears welling up behind my eyes, and I swiftly blinked them away. I would not let her see me cry, not again. My sister had those golden locks and the free reign of our father's affections. It felt like I had to fight for every ounce of love, every ounce of understanding. Just then my father entered the room, his presence clearing the air if only a bit. "What's all this commotion about?" he asked casually, eyebrows arched and a slight smirk twisted his lips. I felt my mother's body stiffen beside me, and all the fight I had began to drain away as I wiped my sweaty palms on my jeans. "Your daughter wants to start a family war, apparently." My mother leaned towards him, a conspiratorial whisper punctuating her words. "She feels neglected." "Neglected? Seriously?" My father's voice dripped with a mix of disbelief and what felt like mockery. "When did this become about you?" "Because it is about me, it is always about them, you never see me." My hands were shaking at this point. I stepped back, feeling regret seep into my veins. "Every time you chose them over me." "Have you actually listened to yourself?" My father spat, moving closer, his shadow eclipsing the light coming from the kitchen window. "You make everything about you. It's exhausting." The words stung worse than any slap, and I felt my breath hitch as he turned away. I was drowning in the unfairness, the feeling of being swept aside like a crumpled piece of paper. "I guess being the less favored child is exhausting," I mumbled under my breath, but the weight of my words hung heavily in the air, suffocating and unbearably true. "Amelia, it is not about favoritism." My mother's voice was softer now, but it had that tense undercurrent that made me realize she was more concerned about keeping up appearances than genuinely understanding me. "Life is not fair. You should know that by now." "I know that, but it does not mean I have to just stand by and accept it," I argued back, my defiance rising as I felt a flicker of determination ignite inside me. "I am done being the punching bag. I will not stay in the shadow of my sister any longer." In that moment, my sister entered without warning, her presence instantly seeping into the walls as if she had come in to reclaim the space that was casually exploring her absence. "Oh, great, what did I miss?" she asked without looking up from her phone. "Nothing that matters to you." I snapped, unable to contain my venom. I think it's cute that you think you can outrun this family, she replied with a roll of her eyes, barely concealing her smirk. My mother shifted uncomfortably, but before she could intervene, my sister continued, just keep dreaming, and maybe one day you might actually matter. My cheeks flushed as rage flooded my system, boiling to the surface in a way I seldom allowed it to. Don't get to decide who matters. You think I'm just going to step aside for your entitled nonsense? What's going on in here? My father interrupted, clearly taken aback as if he was watching an unexpected show unfold in front of him. There's just a debate about the hierarchy of this family, my sister shot back, her tone dripping with condescension. Small, shrill voices should always be quieted. Her laughter echoed in my ears, stirring an ancient hurt festering from years of dismissiveness. For a brief moment, everything fell silent. My heart raced as the tension turned palpable, stretching between us thicker than the air itself. I could feel the weight of their judgment pushing down on me, threatening to smother me completely. Listen to me, I found myself saying, my voice trembling but determined. I might be the less favored in your eyes, but I know who I am. You can mock me, make me feel worthless, but I refuse to let it continue. This is where I draw the line. My sister opened her mouth, probably to laugh again, but I held up my hand, cutting her off. Just stop. I have seen how you treat me like I'm invisible, and I have let it happen for too long. With that, I turned on my heel, fury coursing through me as I stormed out of the kitchen, heart pounding and tears threatening to spill. Just as I reached the front door, I heard my father's voice, low and heavy. Amelia? I paused, body coiling with tension. I wanted to ignore him, but something in his tone urged me to stop, and I looked back at him. You think walking out of here solves anything? Maybe it will, I said, testing the power of my resolve. Maybe I will finally find my voice outside of this family. Without waiting for a response, I slammed the door behind me, the sound reverberating in the stillness like a thunderclap, leaving behind stunned silence, an emptiness that hung in the air, my family's shocked faces precisely what I needed to fuel my fire. The kitchen was buzzing. A cacophony of clanking silverware, sizzling pans, and muffled chatter filled the air, yet the atmosphere felt heavy, as if a storm threatened to break. I leaned against the kitchen counter, tracing my fingers over the cool granite surface, trying to steady my heart, which felt like a frantic drum echoing through my chest. My brother was pacing back and forth, his hands shoved deep into his pockets, and my sister sat at the table, her eyes narrowed as if she were studying our father. I could almost smell the tension rising like steam from the boiling pasta pot on the stove. This was supposed to be a family dinner, a simple gathering to celebrate my father's promotion, but I felt completely out of place, like a puzzle piece that didn't belong. Can you believe he said that to me? My brother snapped, breaking the silence with a tone that shot through me. My mother looked sharply over her shoulder, her brow furrowed like she was trying to stitch us back together, but it was clear she was fighting her own battles. I couldn't even remember when she last smiled without a hint of worry crinkling the corners of her mouth. He didn't mean it that way, my sister interjected, indignation lacing her voice. He was just stressed about work. I watched her fingers tapping against the table nervously, and I knew she was only partially trying to defend my father. The truth was, our father had always been the favored child, the one who got everything his way, but now he expected us to pretend it was all fine. You don't even get it, do you? My brother turned his glare towards her, his frustration palpable. You just let him step all over you. He's cut me off completely because I wanted to pursue my own dreams. Today he actually laughed at me. My heart sank at his words. I could see the hurt etched across his face. It was a mirror of the feelings I could not yet articulate. Maybe if you didn't act so recklessly, he would appreciate you more. My sister shot back, but I could see the glimmer of doubt in her eyes. Even she didn't fully believe that. A part of me wished she would push back harder. The plate of half-eaten food sat untouched in front of her, an embodiment of our family's great hunger for connection that we simply could not quench any longer. Let's just eat, my mother finally chimed in, her voice a gentle plea like the sound of soft rain. But I felt trapped in my own swirling thoughts, the aroma of garlic and basil blending with my mixed emotions, suffocating and comforting all at once. No one was truly hungry for food. We were all starved for understanding and reassurance. You know what I really hate? I finally broke my silence, my voice trembling slightly, a floodgate barely cracked open. Every eye turned to me, surprise and expectation hanging in the air. I think it's unfair how you all let him talk down to you to us without holding him accountable. It felt liberating to say that, but also terrifying. My brother nodded slowly, a flicker of hope igniting in his darkened expression. Yeah, we need to stand up for ourselves, he said. I refuse to be treated like a punchline in his jokes anymore. But how? My sister asked, leaning back, crossing her arms defensively. Walls of the dining room felt like they were closing in, the weight of our shared grievances pressed down upon me. Maybe we should confront him about the inheritance, I suggested, then immediately felt the tremor of fear creep into my voice. We all know he's been planning to give everything to my sister. It's been obvious for years. A silence enveloped the room, heavy and thick. My mother's eyes welled up with tears, shimmering under the dim kitchen lights. Sweetheart, please, let's not make this about money. Her voice cracked, and I could not meet her gaze. This was about so much more than money. It was about the years of feeling undervalued, overlooked, and unheard. But he would listen if it was about money, my brother replied softly, his voice steadier now. I overheard him once saying he wanted to sell the property after he decided who should get it. It's worth over $500,000. That's our home? I could sense a shift in him, maybe a tinge of rebellion bubbling beneath the surface. My sister's expression hardened, her face tight. You think I want the house? It's not about that. It's about him choosing us over the others. The frustration in her voice made me ache for her, too. Living in a house that felt more like a battleground than a home, nothing was easy. Then we take control, not just for the money, but for our lives. My words burst forth, fueled by a mixture of desperation and newfound strength. I could barely comprehend the weight of what I was suggesting. Already I could feel sneers from my father echoing in the back of my mind. What do you mean? My sister responded, genuine curiosity sparking behind her fury. We could expose everything he has done, all the favoritism, I confessed, feeling a thrill of adrenaline dance down my spine. I barely recognized my own voice, fueled with a voice that had long been silenced. What if we record him? Document the lies and manipulation? Let the world see what he's done. There was a shift, a palpable gust of understanding that swept over my brother and sister. My brother leaned closer, eyes aglow, as if he were discovering an unexpected ally in my madness. That could work, he whispered, excitement threading through his words. I could feel my heart racing, then quickly turned to shocking anxiety. What if it backfired? Are you serious? My sister asked, her voice steely. Do you want to destroy our family even more than it already is? No, I want to liberate us. I felt my emotions swelling again, tears ready to spill. I wiped them away in a quick, defiant motion. We are worth more than his belittlement. We have to take a stand. A heavy pause fell upon us, a critical moment where tensions were high and resolution hovered just beyond our reach. But then the front door swung open, and the sound of footsteps echoed through the hallway. My father's voice boomed, drowning out the fragile atmosphere we had been trying to cultivate. What's all this noise? He barked, his presence sucking the remaining light from the room. My heart dropped, dread flooding in like a tidal wave. Just family discussions, Dad, my brother replied, though I could hear the tremor in his words. Sounds more like arguments, he shot back, his eyebrows furrowing. The words hung in the air like thunder just before the storm. I froze, the silence palpable. My heart raced again, a war building in my chest. Did he overhear our plans for vengeance? My mother exchanged worried glances with each of us, her face pale and sallow under her usual warmth. This family is falling apart, my father continued, raising his voice, his eyes cold and judging, and I won't sit back and watch any longer. I could feel the tremors of fear dance through each of my family members, but I held my ground. Bubble threats or promises felt constrictive. I could hardly breathe. Would he really come after us if we pursued our justice? The air shifted as I realized I was standing on the precipice of something monumental, a power shift, and I wouldn't let this moment slip away. As he drew nearer, his looming shadow eclipsing our fragile gathering, I took a deep breath, determined to continue this fight no matter the direction it took us. And as the front door slammed behind him, I knew the real battle had just begun. I stood at the edge of the family living room, my heart pounding in my chest like a drum signaling a storm. The familiar smell of my mother's cooking wafted through the air, an aroma of roasted chicken mingled with garlic and herbs that should have felt comforting. But instead, it twisted my stomach into knots. Tonight was supposed to be a family dinner, a gathering to celebrate my brother's promotion and to discuss some exciting news that my father had hinted at. But beneath the surface of laughter and clinking silverware, I sensed something off. Tell them, father, they are going to be so thrilled. My brother said, leaning into my parents with his usual swagger, his eyes shining with excitement. I tried to smile, but my throat felt thick. Calm down. We just want everyone to be together for the big reveal, my mother replied, her voice smooth yet strained, as though she was trying to maintain a facade over an unraveling truth. The tension hung thick in the air, a palpable pressure pressing down on me. As I sat down at the dinner table, the beautifully set plates made everything feel surreal. The sparkling crystal glasses reflected the soft light from the chandelier, casting tiny rainbows on the walls. My hands trembled in my lap as I watched my brother boast about his work, his every word a dagger to my heart. He had always been the favored child, and I had spent my life learning how to navigate around his shadow. You won't believe the deal I closed at work, $100,000. He exclaimed, slapping the table with his palm, as though that understandable pride could silence the bitterness tightening in my chest. My mother's eyes sparkled with admiration, and I felt bile rise in my throat. Why was her pride so easily given to him while I could barely earn her recognition? And it's just the beginning, he continued, a self satisfied grin plastered on his face. I'll be the head of my department in no time. He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed as if he already owned the place. My heart sank further. I wished I could muster just a fraction of his confidence, but the weight of years of feeling overlooked extinguished that spark. Proud of you, son, my father chimed in, his voice booming with approval. We always knew you had it in you. I felt the sting of those words resonate through my body. Did my father even remember the ideas I had pitched, the plans I had laid out that never seemed to capture his interest? I glanced at my sister across the table, her face mirroring my unease. She shifted uncomfortably, clearly caught up in the dynamics at play. Mama, can we talk about the family? I finally ventured, my voice shaking as I tried to cut through the oppressive atmosphere. I have been working on some projects myself. I think everyone's proud of you too, Amelia, but tonight is not about that. My mother interrupted, her tone clipped. The dismissive nature of her words made my stomach churn. I went pale, embarrassed, and deeply frustrated. I just think it would be nice if we could discuss things together as a family instead of always focusing on. I trailed off, glancing at my brother, who was smirking, clearly reveling in taking center stage. Instead of focusing on what? You. My brother shot back, his smirk growing into a full-blown grin. I think you need to accept that you will always be the second best baker. Just because you have some artistic degree doesn't mean you get to outshine me at the dinner table. Enough, my father slammed the table, causing everyone to jump. The chandelier rattled above us, and I felt a jolt of embarrassment shoot through me as I bit my lip to suppress the tears threatening to spill. Tonight is about celebrating your brother's success. We don't need to bring up the past or your own ambitions, they can wait. I stared down at my plate, the food suddenly unappealing. A cocktail of emotions bubbled inside me. I felt struck by both betrayal and an urge to fight back. I could not simply sit quietly any longer. This was the same cycle every time. They would elevate him while I was left scraping the bottom for crumbs of validation. What is the big news you wanted to share, father? More favoritism. I forced the words out, my stomach tightening, daring him to respond. Just wait, Amelia, my mother replied impatiently, her frustration barely masking her discomfort. It will all make sense soon. No one reassured me. I could tell my parents were growing increasingly irritated with me. My sister looked away, uncomfortable, nibbling on her food as though she could blend into the table decor. Amelia, is there something on your mind? My father asked, his tone shifting from anger to curious probing. My heart raced, I took a deep breath, feeling the heat rise in my cheeks. I just want to know where we stand as a family. Inheritance is a big deal, and with everything that's been going on, it makes sense we should talk about it openly. I blurted out, every word tumbling out in a rush as if the floodgates of my pent-up feelings had finally burst open. The room fell silent. My father's face hardened, and I could feel the atmosphere grow thick and sticky, like a fog rolling in. My brother leaned back, surprise etched across his face, while my mother's eyes widened with shock. For a fleeting moment, I felt a flicker of satisfaction. Had I finally broken through the walls of pretense? Amelia, that is not appropriate, my father said, voice low and dangerous. He looked at me with an intensity that actually made my hands shake. We do not talk about such things at the dinner table. It is bad manners. Bad manners or not, it is a reality. I have been working so hard, and I deserve at least a chance to stand on level ground, don't you think, father? I could hear the defiance in my voice, almost a challenge rather than a plea. Do not push your luck, he warned, his tone sharpening, but my determination surged. I refused to be a doormat to his authoritative presence any longer. You need to know where your place is within this family. Excuse me? I said, my voice suddenly stronger, more resolute. What if I refuse to accept that place? After all these years of being cut off, I deserve a fair shot just like everyone else? My mother looked like she was about to protest, but my brother suddenly laughed, a mockery that echoed painfully in the silence that followed. Looks like someone's been reading too many self-help books. Good luck with your dreams of equality, sis. I clenched my fists under the table, my nails digging into my palms. Anger surged through me like wildfire, but I couldn't show it, not now. Something was about to erupt, and I felt the weight of the moment pressing down on us all, potent and ready to explode. Fine, you want to talk about the future, let us talk about reality, my father said finally, his voice low and steely as he leaned forward, locking eyes with me like a predator sizing up its prey. Let me serve you the truth. What you desire, a piece of this family, this inheritance, comes at a steep price. You'll need to prove you are worth it. A chill ran through me. I felt as if the air had been sucked out of the room. What did he mean by that? My chest tightened. The way my father regarded me was far from a simple family dispute. This was a power play, a game with unspoken stakes. My brother nearly bounced in his seat, relishing the tension. A fresh wave of realization washed over me, igniting the fuel of my silent fury. I would not play victim any longer. It was time cut through this poisonous legacy and make my mark. I will prove myself, I declared, my heart pounding as I rose from the table, defiance sparking in my chest, igniting my resolve. You have no idea what I am capable of, but I will show you. You will wish you had believed in me sooner. As I spun on my heel and stormed away from the dining room, I felt a sense of liberation coursing through me. The weight of their expectations no longer held me down. Behind me, I could hear my brother's mocking laughter and my mother's frantic words, but I refused to look back. This was the spark I needed. This family drama was morphing into something much bigger, and as chaos unfolded, I knew the next steps would lead me toward revenge. Just as I reached the doorway, I heard my father's voice cut through the air sharply. Don't think you can just walk away. The door can swing both ways and you won't like where it leads. I paused for a split second, contemplating his ominous warning. The mix of determination and dread filled the air, like fire and ice clashing within me. I turned just slightly, locking eyes with him for a heartbeat before stepping through the doorway. The door clicked shut with a definitive thud, leaving the smothering tension behind me. As I leaned against the cool wood, my heart raced with the realization that this was only the beginning. From here on out, everything would change. The cracks in our family dynamic were widening, and I was ready to push them further. The sweet taste of revenge lingered on my tongue. It was time to unleash my true self. I could feel the tension in the air as I walked into the living room, the familiar space suddenly feeling foreign and filled with unspoken accusations. My heart raced as I took in my surroundings. The golden brown walls seemed to close in around me, reminding me of all the family gatherings that had taken place here. Laughter echoed in my mind, but tonight the silence was deafening, punctuated only by the occasional shuffle of feet on the polished wooden floor. My mother stood by the fireplace, her arms crossed and a stern expression etched on her face. My father was in his favorite armchair, a brooding figure, his brows furrowed deeply as he stared into the flickering flames. I could almost feel the heat radiating from the fire, but it did nothing to warm the chill that had settled deep in my bones. Where have you been? My mother demanded, her tone clipped and accusatory. I could see that she thought I had been up to no good, and I felt the familiar sense of being backed into a corner. You just vanished. I was out, Mom, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. I needed some time to think. It felt ridiculous to explain myself when I had been barely able to breathe inside this house, let alone think. Time to think? She scoffed, her voice rising. You think that's an excuse? Do you know how much money your grandparents spent on that wedding? They trusted you to do the right thing, not to run away when this family needed you the most. At the mention of money, I felt my stomach tighten. They had spent over $50,000 on my sister's wedding, a lavish affair that I had been expected to cheer for despite my own feelings of being cast aside. This family, I thought bitterly, only cares about appearances. You think it's that simple. I shot back, surprising even myself with the anger in my voice. Just because you throw money at a problem doesn't mean it all goes away. What's that supposed to mean? My father's voice cut through the room, low and dangerous. I turned to him, but I couldn't quite read the look on his face. Was it anger? Disappointment? Perhaps both. It means you both have chosen my sister over me time and time again, I said, unable to hold back my frustration. She gets the fairy tale wedding, and I am just expected to stand in the shadows, a mere guest at my own family event. Don't make this about you, my mother said dismissively, shaking her head as if I were a child throwing a tantrum. This is about your sister's happiness. Every decision we make is for the family. Every decision except when it comes to me. My voice cracked slightly, but I didn't care. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks as I continued. You both acted like I was invisible after she got engaged. And now at her wedding, I was just supposed to applaud her like some trained seal? Enough, my father shouted, slamming his fist against the arm of the chair. The sudden sound startled me, and I flinched, feeling the familiar stinging sensation of tears welling up. Why was it always this way? Why did we have to argue for them to see me? Why can't you just be happy for her? My mother continued, her voice dripping with irritation. She is your sister, not your rival. I was never trying to compete with her, I exclaimed, my throat tightening with emotion. All I wanted was a little acknowledgement, a little love from my own family. Instead, I feel mocked like I don't matter at all. Mocked, my mother's eyebrows shot up, incredulous. You think we mock you after everything we've given you? Everything you've given me. You mean the strict rules, the expectations, the hours spent cleaning the house for guests? You think that qualifies as love? When was the last time you even asked me how I was doing? My voice escalated with every word, the sense of betrayal spilling out. I could see the shock in their eyes, and in that moment, I felt a strange mix of empowerment and vulnerability. You are an adult now. You should be able to handle these things. My father shot back without missing a beat, his authoritative tone like a whip cracking in the air. Handle what exactly? The favoritism? The way you two overlook me every single time. I'm not a child. I don't need you to coddle me. I need you to see me. As the words left my mouth, I felt freer than I had in years. I threw my gaze towards the wedding picture hanging on the wall, a glossy snapshot of my sister in her white dress, surrounded by friends and family. And there I was, a mere spectator, standing up at the edge of the frame, smiling like a ghost, forgotten, or maybe just a prop for the day. The reality hit me hard, and I felt fresh anger boiling under my skin. Perhaps if you didn't make poor choices, like coming back home after college with nothing to show for it, you would have earned some respect. My father continued, his voice steady but cutting. You have one last chance to prove yourself, and it is slipping away. Prove myself? I echoed, swallowing hard at his words. By being the perfect daughter, while my sister gets the blessing of the whole family? This is a joke. No, it's not a joke. My mother shot back, her eyes narrowing. You need to stop making excuses for your shortcomings, Amelia. You demanded our help, and we've given it. Have you ever thought about being the supportive sister you are supposed to be? Did you ever stop to consider that maybe it isn't all about you? I could feel my heart pounding in my chest like a drum, and I took a step back, desperately needing to distance myself from the tight knot of emotions. The room felt smaller, more suffocating, and suddenly I didn't want to be here anymore, caught in this whirlwind of disappointment and expectations. Don't even say my name as if we are close, I hissed, my hands shaking as I pointed toward the door. You wouldn't recognize me if I stood on this very rug and handed you a list of everything you've put me through. You cut me off when my sister needed you, and now you are demanding I be your perfect daughter for the family name? My mother stepped forward, her voice trembling with anger. You think we chose her over you? You have definitely lost your mind. The words hung in the air as I realized that I was done defending myself. The angst and bitterness had become too much to bear. No, I said, forcing my voice to be calm. Maybe this is just the moment I need to make some choices of my own. I turned on my heel, my breath shallow, and grabbed the handle of the door, the sudden surge of resolve propelling me to leave. They hadn't noticed how much I had been pushed away until now. I wouldn't let their expectations shape who I was any longer. The door clicked shut behind me, a finality that reverberated through the hallway. But no sooner had I stepped outside than I heard my mother's voice, sharp and cutting. You can run, but it won't change anything. You will regret this. I stood frozen outside as the last echoes of her anger cascaded down the hall. And in that moment, the stakes felt impossibly high. Maybe I wouldn't regret it. Maybe this was merely the beginning of reclaiming my life, taking back my power. I turned my back on the house and walked away, my blood still boiling and my heart set on revenge. It was the kind of evening that felt like a storm was approaching, the air thick with tension and something unspoken hanging between us. As I sat at the long dining table, the smell of roasted chicken wafting through the air, I could feel the discord simmering just beneath the surface, invisible yet palpable. My father sat at the head, his brows furrowed in that way I had seen countless times, like he was trying to solve a puzzle that made no sense. My mother stood by the counter, her hands shakily arranging the cutlery, an uneasy smile plastered on her face. My brother and sister were at each end, exchanging side glances I couldn't quite decipher but knew held secrets I was not privy to. The usual Sunday dinner had transformed into something more sinister. I could sense it the moment I walked into the house, the usual warmth replaced with a chill that tingled along my spine. I stole a look at my brother. His lips were pressed tightly together, eyes darting to my sister, who was scrolling through her phone, pretending to be oblivious to the tension. It was maddening. Can we at least pretend everything is normal for one night? I thought, shutting my eyes for a brief moment, squeezing my fists under the table in an effort to calm my racing heart. My father's voice cut through the murmur of our silence. I think we need to talk about some important things tonight, he said, his tone grave. It was one of those deceptive moments when you just know that whatever is about to happen will change everything. My gaze shot toward my mother, and for a split second I thought I saw the color drain from her face. What do you mean, Dad? My voice came out sharper than I intended. Can't we just enjoy dinner? Dinner's only going to last so long, my brother chimed in, leaning forward now, the veneer of casualness giving way to something more serious. I heard some things today, my throat tightened. I could feel the raw panic rise within me. What things? My heart was pounding, each pulse a drum roll leading me closer to a revelation I dreaded. My sister looked up finally, the defiance in her eyes matched only by the way she casually tossed her long hair over her shoulder. You really don't know? She said, her lips curling into a smirk as if she reveled in the chaos unfolding. You are the last one to know, as usual. Stop it, I shot back, frustration bubbling to the surface. What is going on? The distance of my father's gaze weighed heavy in the air as he attempted to gather his thoughts. It's about the inheritance, he stated flatly, sending a shiver through me. Inheritance. The very word hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. I felt my stomach drop. What about it? I demanded, my voice trembling but steadied by a surge of determination. I wanted to dissect this conversation, to cut through the underlying currents of favoritism that were as clear as day. You haven't even mentioned it in years. My mother fidgeted, wiping her hands on a dish towel as if trying to absorb the tension. Dear, it's complicated, she said softly, but I barely heard her. I could feel layers of resentment thickening between us, years of perceived neglect and favoritism compressing like a pressure cooker. Complicated how? I challenged, eyes wide with a mix of fear and anger. You mean to tell me suddenly out of the blue, after all these years, you feel the need to discuss money? My brother chuckled darkly, a sound that echoed ominously, sending a ripple of unease through the table. Maybe it's because you're too busy pretending like everything is fine to notice what's really happening, sis. Mom and dad have been planning to cut you off. I froze, momentarily blindsided. I had expected the discussion, but the phrasing of being cut off struck deeper than I anticipated. What? I could feel my cheeks redden with indignation. No one is cutting me off, you must be kidding me. My father shifted in his seat, the tension between him and my brother palpable. Amelia, he began cautiously, we never meant for it to come to this, but what? I interrupted, my voice cracking. I need you to stop skirting around the truth, just say it. My brother's eyes danced with that unfathomable mixture of annoyance and glee. You'll get nothing, you know. It's going to be split between the three of us. You are the odd one out. My heart raced in my chest. I could feel the urge to stand up and push my chair backward, to scream, to do anything, just to shake the absurdity of the situation from my brain. This isn't fair, I muttered, hands shaking on the table surface. After everything, you are actually considering leaving me out because why? You like to keep the best toys for yourselves? I never wanted to hurt you, my mother pleaded, her voice strained and soft like she was trying to deliver the injustice gently. But gentle never felt like an option in our family. It's for your own good, Amelia. We want you to focus on your own life without depending on our money. This is an opportunity for you. Opportunity? You mean punishment? I shouted, unable to contain myself. I've always been treated like the problem child. First, it was the college funds that disappeared when I needed them. Now this, sitting back, arms crossed tightly, I felt myself breaking apart, pieces of suppressed emotion spilling into my thoughts, filling me with anguish. A rush of anger overcame me, crashing over my resolve like waves. You chose them over me time and again. My brother's smirk fell into an expression of disdain. Oh, please, spare me your victim act, Amelia. We're trying to move on. You're just stuck in your own little world. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I swallowed hard, refusing to let them spill over. I wouldn't give them that satisfaction. Do you think this is some game? Because it's not. Yeah, well, it's not all about you, my sister added, sounding amused rather than concerned. Just because you're unhappy doesn't mean we have to be. You can keep your inheritance, I bit back, my voice low yet filled with steely determination. I will find a way to be just fine without you. With that, I stood up abruptly, the wooden chair scraping against the tiled floor, the sound slicing through the air where seconds ago silence had reigned. My heart hammered wildly in my chest as I felt the effect of my defiance ripple through the table. Where are you going? My father demanded, voice firm but edged with a hint of panic, the authority of the head of the family being called into question. My chest tightened and I turned on my heel. Anywhere but here. I shouted back, slamming the front door behind me with a force that echoed through the stillness of the night. Outside, the cool air hit me like a slap, grounding me in the moment, cutting through the fog of anger. I looked up at the night sky, filled with stars, but they felt distant and out of reach. I realized it wasn't just the family tension that was suffocating me, it was the overwhelming weight of the betrayal. With each breath, I felt a strange kind of clarity emerging from the chaos. I might have been on the outside, but I was no longer going to let myself be the victim of their games. Something was brewing deep inside me, an uncomfortable, yet empowering shift that whispered promises of revenge. As I walked away into the darkness, the resolve began to harden in my chest. I would show them just how wrong they were to dismiss me.